Do you feel like life has stopped? Don't give up. Your greatest enemy isn't outside, it's in your mind. Listen.
Everything happens for a reason tonight. You're not here by chance. You're here because your soul seeks calm, because something deep within you is longing for rest, not only of the body, but of the mind. The ancient Stoics knew the way to find it. Over the next few hours, you'll hear timeless teachings, words born from men who endured wars, loss, and betrayal, yet still discovered serenity amid the storm. Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, none of them spoke from theory. They spoke from battle, from the quiet wars within their own hearts. Tonight, their voices will whisper through your thoughts as you surrender to rest. You don't need to understand every word or remember every phrase. Just listen and let their wisdom clear your mind, the way rain washes the dust from the earth. This is not just another video. It is a refuge, a pause, a sacred space where you can release the weight of the day and remember, even in darkness, wisdom waits to be heard. Let's begin. Lesson 1. Everything that happens, happens for good. Times life places us in moments we never chose. Unexpected turns, loss, change, news we didn't want to hear, people who leave, obstacles that seem unfair, and our mind resists. We ask, why me? What did I do wrong? Why now? Without realizing it, we begin to fight against what already is, a battle against reality itself. But the Stoics left us a liberating truth. It's not about controlling what happens, it's about discovering the value hidden within it. It's not about escaping pain, it's about transforming pain into strength. It's not about resisting the facts, it's about understanding them and growing from them. Epictetus put it simply, some things are within our control, others are not. The weather, the past, the choices of others, the turns of fate, none of that belongs to us. But one thing always does, our response. Stoicism isn't a cold or distant philosophy. It's a balm for the soul, a way of seeing that turns tragedy into evolution, disappointment into wisdom, endings into new beginnings. Everything that happens, happens for a reason. Not because everything is pleasant, not because suffering is enjoyable, but because every experience can become a tool for the soul that chooses to see beyond the surface. For those who dare to look deeper, what feels like discomfort often hides the greatest lessons. Failure can awaken forgotten humility. Loss can reveal what you were clinging to. Illness can remind you of life's fragility, and through it, the value of each fleeting moment. An unexpected change can pull you out of comfort and push you toward a version of yourself you might never have met otherwise. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The obstacle to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. What seems like a barrier often points the direction. What appears chaotic is part of a larger order. What hurts today may bring freedom tomorrow." Think back to a moment you thought you wouldn't survive. That pain, that fear. Yet here you are, still breathing, still moving forward. Perhaps wiser, perhaps stronger, still becoming. The pain was real, but so was the transformation. The Stoics did not ignore suffering. They walked through it, and in doing so they became something new. They knew that behind every moment, no matter how dark, there hides potential, a virtue waiting to grow. You can resist the present moment, or let it transform you. You can complain about what happened, or discover what it's trying to teach you. You can live reacting, or you can live observing, understanding and choosing with awareness. The choice is always internal, and no one can take it from you. So next time life throws something unexpected your way, repeat quietly, everything happens for a reason. Repeat it slowly, without rush, without forcing meaning. Just let it settle, because sometimes what looks like an ending is only a beginning in disguise. What feels like punishment might just be destiny adjusting your path towards something you're not yet able to see. You are not alone. You are not lost. You are not broken. You are being guided from within, by life's quiet intelligence. And if you learn to listen, your soul will know where to go. Tonight, as you drift into rest, Let this idea settle softly in your mind. There are no mistakes on the path, only lessons waiting to be found, only opportunities waiting to be seen. Breathe deeply. Release what you expected. Accept what is. Remember, everything happens for a reason. If you're willing to see with the eyes of the soul. Lesson 2. Don't try to control the world. Master your mind. There's a quiet truth. The wise understood long before us. The world is not under our control, yet most human suffering comes from trying to make it so. We crave for everything to go as planned, for people to behave as we expect, for the weather to match our moods, for time to move at our pace, for surprises to disappear. But life does not bend to our will. Life simply unfolds, and each time we collide with reality, pain arises not because life is cruel, but because we haven't yet learned to let go of control. Stoicism reminds us, with compassion and clarity, you have no power over the external, but you have complete power over your inner world. You cannot dictate what happens around you, but you can govern your mind. And within that sacred space lies your true freedom. Epictetus said, "We are not disturbed by things, but by the opinions we have about things." Those words are a key, a doorway out of unnecessary suffering. It's not the event itself that hurts, but your interpretation, your reaction, the thought you choose to repeat. A criticism has no power until you decide it defines you. An unexpected change ruins your day only if you choose to resist it. Bad news breaks you only if you make it your identity. Everything begins in the mind, and that's where you must look when everything outside feels chaotic. The Stoics didn't seek to erase emotion. They sought to understand it, to observe it, to give it form and limits. They didn't deny anger, fear, or sadness, but they refused to let those emotions rule their lives. They knew that an uncontrolled emotion is like a storm without direction. It destroys, but a comprehended emotion becomes wisdom. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor and philosopher, wrote in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He didn't write that in peace, but in chaos, amid wars, sickness, hard choices, and grief. Even then, his refuge was his mind. You too can build that refuge, an inner sanctuary to return to when the world outside feels uncertain. That place where you are not defined by what happens, but by how you choose to respond. Maybe today was hard. Maybe something didn't go as you hoped. Maybe someone disappointed you, or you disappointed yourself. It's okay, you don't have to be perfect. No one is. Even now, in this quiet night, remember, you still hold the power to choose your next thought. You can release the weight. You can breathe. You can decide that nothing external will dictate your peace. The Stoics practiced this freedom daily, not as theory, but as a way of living. They trained their minds not to be slaves of circumstance, not to drown in emotions or worries that lead nowhere. Because they knew, if they could calm the mind, they could survive any storm. And that calm does not depend on what happens outside. It doesn't come with success. It doesn't arrive when everything is perfect. That calm is born the moment you accept what cannot be changed, and focus your strength on what can. Your thoughts, your actions, your decisions, your perspective. Tonight before you sleep, try this simple exercise. Think about everything that disturbed you today, and ask yourself, does this depend on me? If the answer is no, let it go, like a leaf floating downstream. If the answer is yes, then act, but without anxiety, without urgency, without chasing perfection. Act with calm, with presence, with intention, because true power is never about controlling others or forcing life to fit your plans. It's about mastering yourself, learning to live in harmony with your own mind, no matter how chaotic the world may seem. When you achieve that, when you hold your center amid the storm, you've already won. You are no longer trapped. Your soul is free, and in that freedom, wisdom is born. Remember tonight, don't try to control the world, master your mind. Lesson 3. Flow with life. You can't stop the river, but you can learn to move with its current. You can't stop it. You can't make it go backward. You can't control it. The only thing you can do is choose how you move within it. You can fight against the current, exhausting yourself trying to swim against its flow, or you can allow yourself to float, to let go, to trust that the river knows where it's going. That is life. Flowing with life is one of the most powerful yet most difficult lessons to practice. From childhood, we've been taught to resist, to control, to demand that reality fit our desires, our plans, our expectations. But life doesn't obey our commands. It doesn't follow the careful maps we draw. Life, like the river, has its own rhythm, its own logic, its own direction, and the more we try to force it, the more we suffer. The Stoics understood this deeply. To them, resisting the nature of things was the root of most human suffering. It wasn't what happened that wounded the soul, but the attitude with which we received what happened. When you cling to how things should be, you stop seeing how they really are. And that gap between expectation and reality becomes a chasm filled with anxiety, frustration, anger, and despair. Epictetus said it clearly: "Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for them to happen as they do, and your life will go well." That simple line contains a wisdom capable of transforming your entire experience of life. If you let it sink deep into your heart, it means releasing the impulse to control the uncontrollable and replacing it with active, conscious, and present acceptance. Acceptance is not resignation. It's not passivity or indifference. It's not saying, "Well, that's just how it is," with sadness or defeat. To accept in the Stoic sense is to understand that life is not here to please us, but to teach us. Every situation, even the hardest ones, carries a hidden opportunity, and often that opportunity only appears when we stop resisting what's happening. Think of a time in your life when something turned out completely different from what you had planned. Maybe you lost a job. Maybe a relationship ended. Maybe a dream you'd been nurturing for years fell apart in days. At the time, you probably felt pain, confusion, even anger. You asked why. You looked for explanations. Maybe you even blamed yourself. But with time, looking back, didn't you find a seed of growth within that experience? Didn't something inside you shift, evolve, awaken? Didn't that crisis shape a deeper, stronger, more conscious version of yourself? That's what it means to flow. Not because life is easy or painless, but because you trust that every wave, even the fiercest one, has something to teach you. Flowing means stopping the fight with life and learning to walk alongside it. It means changing the question from "Why is this happening to me?" to "What is this trying to show me?" It means seeing every moment, pleasant or painful, as part of a larger, wiser, mysterious process. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, and one of the most profound philosophers in history, wrote in his Meditations, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment." And that is precisely the heart of this lesson. What comes has a reason, what goes does too. Our task is not to cling or to reject, but to open ourselves to what life is showing us, even when we don't understand it yet. When you resist life, it's as if every muscle in your body is tense but motionless. Your energy drains away, holding a useless tension. But when you let go, when you choose to flow, it's as if you drop a stone you've been carrying on your back for years. Then calmness arrives, not because everything is solved, but because you've stopped fighting the inevitable. The wise do not suffer less because life is easier for them. They suffer less because they don't cling to what they cannot change. They've learned that life is constant movement, and the more rigid you become, the more you break. But if you become flexible, like bamboo, bending with the wind instead of resisting it, you don't just survive, you flourish. Tonight, as you prepare to sleep, ask yourself, in what parts of my life am I resisting? What am I trying to force? What am I refusing to accept? Maybe there's a relationship that no longer makes sense to hold on to. Maybe there's a project that refuses to move forward, no matter how hard you try. Maybe there's an emotion you constantly deny, or a change you know you must make, but you postpone out of fear. Whatever it is, observe it without judgment. You don't need to fix it right now. Just recognize it, because awareness is the first step toward release. Then as you breathe softly, repeat to yourself, I can let go, I can flow. I don't need to have all the answers, only to be present. Life doesn't need to be fully understood to be deeply lived. Sometimes all we need is trust. Trust that there's a greater wisdom guiding the process. Trust that even the most painful turns can bring light. Trust that what seems like an ending is often just the beginning of something truer. The Stoics didn't speak of faith in religious terms. They spoke of trust in the reason of the universe, in the logos, in the order behind the apparent chaos. And that trust doesn't come from words, but from experience, from living, stumbling, falling, rising again, and seeing how, somehow, everything fits, even what you didn't understand at first, even what you didn't want to happen. Learning to flow with life is an act of humility. It's saying, I don't know where this river is taking me, but I'll let it carry me. I don't know why I'm on this part of the path, but I'll keep walking. I don't know why that person left, why that dream failed, why that plan collapsed, but I accept it. And in that acceptance, a freedom is born, one that no one can take from you. The next time life doesn't meet your expectations, instead of tensing, release. Instead of complaining, observe. Instead of resisting, listen. And you'll see how, little by little, the river carries you toward a wider, clearer, truer version of yourself. Even the murkiest water eventually finds its way. You just need patience. You just need trust. Tonight, let your body rest. Let your mind release its worries. Let your heart open to the wisdom of the present. Because everything that happens, even what you don't understand, is here to help you grow, flow, and let life show you the way. Lesson 4. Your inner response is stronger than any circumstance. You can't control what happens, but you can always control how you respond. Life will inevitably confront you with the unexpected. No matter how organized your calendar is, how carefully you plan your future, or how cautious you are with your choices, something will always arise. A word left unsaid, a sudden illness, a betrayal, a loss, an unforeseen twist of fate breaking through without permission. And in that moment, in that interruption of the order you thought you controlled, what truly matters is revealed, how you choose to respond. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew we cannot control the external world, but we can control our inner one. And within that simple yet profound distinction lies humanity's purest form of freedom. You don't decide what happens, but you do decide what you'll do with what happens. You can let circumstances drag you, define you, and break you, or you can use each circumstance as an opportunity to return to yourself, to strengthen your character, to reaffirm your serenity. Epictetus said, circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him. That simple and powerful phrase holds a transforming truth. When something unexpected happens, when life challenges you, it's not the event itself that holds power over you, but your reaction to it. Think of a storm. One person may look at it and feel fear. Another may look at the same storm and remain calm. The storm doesn't change. What changes is the interpretation, the attitude, the response. That's how everything in life works. A criticism can crush you, or it can teach you something you needed to hear. A rejection can wound you, or redirect you toward a more honest path. A loss can break you, or open you to a deeper, truer form of love. It's not about denying pain. It's not about pretending everything's fine when it clearly isn't. The Stoics never preached fake positivity. They taught inner strength, a quiet power that lets you face the waves without drowning in them. Stoic philosophy doesn't tell you not to feel fear, sadness, or anger. It teaches you that those emotions don't have to rule you. You can observe them without being swept away. You can feel them, acknowledge them, honor them, but not let them become masters of your life. Because in the end, your mind is yours. And everything that happens within it can be transformed. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful emperors of his time, wrote in his journal, "If you are distressed by something external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your perception of it, and you have the power to change this perception at any moment." He didn't write this from comfort or privilege, but under the weight of ruling an empire, amid wars, plagues, betrayals, and death. Surrounded by chaos, he understood that the only true refuge is a disciplined mind. And you can build that refuge too. You don't need to control the world to feel at peace. You only need to control the way you choose to see it. Every thought, every emotion, every reaction can be observed and chosen. Because every difficult moment is, at the same time, a doorway leading toward a stronger, wiser, more conscious version of yourself. Lesson 5. Peace begins when you stop fighting what already is. You cannot stop the rain from falling, but you can choose whether to curse it or dance beneath it. You cannot prevent people from failing you, but you can decide whether that wound will make you bitter or awaken you. You cannot stop time from passing, but you can choose what to do with every moment you've been given. This lesson is a call to inner responsibility, not the kind imposed from the outside, but the one that rises quietly within, the one that gently reminds you that no circumstance can ever take away your freedom to respond with awareness. That is what makes you invincible, because you can lose everything: stability, work, relationships, even health. But as long as you keep the ability to choose your attitude, you are never truly defeated. The world can take many things from you, but your mind, if trained, is untouchable. So tonight, as the day fades and your body begins to rest, try this small mental exercise. Recall a recent situation that unsettled you, something that didn't go as planned, something that hurt or frustrated you. Now look at it from a different perspective. How would your experience have been if you had responded calmly? What might have changed if, instead of reacting impulsively, you had paused, breathed, and observed? This isn't about guilt or judgment. It's about learning, understanding that even in the midst of chaos, there is always a small space of freedom, a single moment of silence between what happens and how you choose to respond. That instant is your superpower. You can strengthen it until it becomes your natural way of living. Because when you change your response, you change your experience. And when you change your experience, you change your reality. You are not what happens to you. You are what you do with what happens to you. You are the quiet choice made in the middle of the noise. You are the inner voice that says, I cannot control this, but I can choose how it affects me. That choice, made again and again, is what sets you free. So tonight, as sleep approaches and your mind releases the weight of the day, remember softly, your inner response is more powerful than any circumstance. You can breathe deeply, release what cannot be changed, and decide to see differently. Peace is not found by fighting the storm. It begins when you stop fighting what already is. Lesson 6. He who masters his desires, masters his destiny. Since ancient times, the struggle to control desire has been one of humanity's silent and constant battles. Desires, those invisible forces that pull us toward what we crave, can be both the source of motivation and the root of suffering. The Stoics understood this clearly. He who masters his desires takes control of his destiny. But what does it mean to master your desires? It doesn't mean rejecting all pleasure or living an austere life without joy. It isn't about denying the world or its beauty. To master desire means to understand it deeply, to observe it without being blindly dragged by it. It's to recognize when a desire is healthy and when it becomes a chain binding you to endless dissatisfaction. Desires themselves are not evil. They are part of our human nature. But when we let them control us, we become slaves. We chase what we think will bring happiness, security, or recognition, without realizing that such pursuit often leads only to restlessness and illusion. Stoicism teaches us that true freedom is not getting everything you want. It's not needing everything you want. It's about freeing yourself from dependence on external things, from approval, possessions, or fleeting pleasures, to feel whole. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death is always near. While it is possible, be good, be just, and master your desires." This reminds us that life is finite and time is precious. When desires rule us, we waste that time chasing things that never bring real satisfaction, comparing ourselves endlessly, and living in anxiety about what we lack. Mastering desire is an act of inner sovereignty, a declaration that says, I decide what truly matters to me. I will not let every impulse dictate my peace. It is the transformation of willpower into strength, a firmness that stands above every fleeting craving. Epictetus expressed it perfectly. It's not what you have, but how you use what you have, that makes you happy. True happiness is not found in accumulation, but in the wise management of your desires and how you live with what already exists. When you master desire, you open the door to authenticity. You stop chasing illusions and start connecting with your essence, the quiet place inside you that is already enough. You act not from anxiety or fear, but from clarity and serenity. Think for a moment, how many times have you been dominated by a desire for approval, control, or possession, only to end up feeling guilt or frustration? Now imagine transforming that same desire into an ally, guided by awareness instead of addiction. That is the essence of self-mastery, not a battle of suppression, but an act of self-respect. The peace born from mastering desire is deep and lasting, because you no longer depend on anything outside yourself to feel complete. You no longer place your happiness in the hands of luck or circumstances. You no longer search outside for what can only be found within. So tonight before sleep, reflect gently, which desires set you free and which enslave you? In what parts of your life do you let impulses take control? What small step can you take to reclaim your will? It's not about perfection, it's about awareness. Every act of conscious restraint strengthens your inner freedom. Remember always, he who masters his desires, masters his destiny. Because destiny is not what happens to you, it's the direction your soul takes when it walks with intention and clarity. Lesson 7. A calm mind is stronger than any storm. Let every breath connect you to that inner strength, the strength that knows how to wait, how to choose, how to be free. And when you awaken, let your day become a reflection of that freedom, a quiet step toward the serenity born from mastering your desires. Imagine for a moment the sea during a storm. The waves crash, the wind roars, darkness seems to cover everything. It's a scene of raw power that can strike fear into anyone. And yet, in the midst of that storm, there are ships that remain steady, unbroken, unshaken. Not because the waves have calmed, but because their structure is strong, their center is still, and they know how to sail through chaos with grace. That is what a calm mind is like. It doesn't mean that challenges disappear or that worries magically vanish. It means that even while the storm rages outside, inside you there is a space where peace cannot be disturbed. Life constantly brings its tempests, conflict at work, tension with loved ones, restless doubts in the middle of the night, unexpected changes that shake your stability. These storms often arrive without warning and can feel overwhelming, but true strength does not come from avoiding the storm. It comes from cultivating a mind capable of withstanding it. The Stoics understood this well. Mental calmness is the greatest power we can develop. Because while the external world is unpredictable, our mind can become a safe harbor, a place where we build order amid uncertainty. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself in his meditations, perfect tranquility consists in the right ordering of the mind, in your own kingdom. A calm mind is not an empty or indifferent mind. It is an organized, aware, and present one, a mind that knows where to place its attention and when to release what it cannot control. Epictetus taught that it is not events themselves that disturb us, but the opinions we form about them. Our true power lies in that inner space, in how we interpret and respond to what happens. When your mind is calm, even the fiercest storm loses its power to harm you. Because you are not the wind nor the waves, you are the navigator holding the rudder steady, patiently waiting for the storm to pass. Cultivating calm takes practice, time, and commitment. Every time you choose to breathe deeply during a crisis, every time you pause instead of reacting impulsively, you are training your mind to grow stronger. A calm mind also brings clarity. In confusion, an agitated mind makes poor decisions. It acts from fear or desperation. But a serene mind sees more clearly, finds creative solutions, and keeps hope alive. Tonight, before you sleep, close your eyes and breathe slowly. Feel your mind settle like a ship on still waters. Repeat softly within, "My calm mind is stronger than any storm." Let that truth anchor itself deep within you. Remember, you don't need to control the waves to navigate life. You only need to keep your mind calm. Lesson 8. Silence is the first step toward inner freedom. From the moment we open our eyes until the moment we finally surrender to sleep, our mind is rarely silent. It hums constantly, a river of thoughts, worries, plans, judgments, memories, and expectations. Sometimes the noise grows so loud that it drowns out our ability to simply be. This endless stream of mental chatter drains us. It steals our peace, our clarity, and our connection to the present moment. It traps us in memories of the past or in imagined futures that may never come. We become prisoners in an invisible cage where freedom feels distant, a beautiful idea but far from reach, and yet there is a door that leads out of that prison, a door humanity has sought for centuries. That door is inner silence. To silence the mind does not mean to forcefully stop every thought or to deny emotions and worries. It is not about escaping reality or pretending not to feel. Silencing the mind is an act of deep observation, a conscious training to release useless noise and let the mind rest in its natural state. The Stoics knew that true freedom does not come from changing external circumstances, most of which are beyond our control. It comes from inner serenity, from a mind that is not enslaved by its own thoughts or emotions. Epictetus said it clearly, "Do not let thoughts carry you away from yourself. Master your mind, and you will master your life." Mastering the mind begins with a simple, powerful act, quieting the noise. When the mind is calm, you begin to hear your inner voice, that quiet wisdom often lost in mental chaos. It guides you toward conscious decisions, toward acceptance, toward peace. How is that silence achieved? Not in a day. It is a practice that requires patience and compassion for yourself. In a world of constant stimulation, finding silence may seem almost impossible, but it is always waiting beneath the surface. You can begin by simply observing your breath, the easiest and most accessible anchor to the present moment. You can practice pausing before reacting, watching your thoughts without judgment. You can dedicate small moments each day to simply be, no distractions, no rush. Each time you choose inner stillness, you give your soul space to breathe, to restore, to rebalance, to return home. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Perfect tranquility consists in the right order of the mind, in your own kingdom. That inner kingdom is where true freedom begins." It doesn't depend on what happens outside, but on how you choose to dwell within your mind. To silence the mind is to free yourself from the slavery of the past and the future. When the mind is quiet, the present becomes the only reality, and in the present, suffering loses its grip. Because you are no longer trapped in what was, nor anxious about what might be. You are simply here, awake, aware, and free. Lesson 9. Silence in the mind, freedom in the soul. This calm allows the mind to stop being a battlefield and become a space of peace and clarity, a place where you can discern which thoughts deserve your attention and which ones can simply drift away. It's natural for the mind to resist silence at first. It's used to noise, to constant dialogue, to overstimulation, but every time you return to stillness, you strengthen your ability to be present. Silencing the mind is also a way of honoring the body and the soul. When the mind is no longer saturated with thought, the body relaxes more deeply, sleep comes naturally, and the heart rediscovers its rhythm. This inner freedom born from silence is a gift you give yourself, a refuge in the middle of chaos, a sacred space where ancient wisdom and modern serenity meet. So tonight, as you prepare for rest, try to quiet your mind, not with force or pressure, but with love and patience. Watch how your thoughts come and go without clinging to any of them. Allow the silence to grow, Slowly and gently, repeat to yourself, "Silence in my mind, freedom in my soul." Let these words guide you into a deep and renewing sleep. And remember, every moment of calm is one more step toward the freedom you seek. Because when you learn to silence the mind, you discover that true freedom has always been within you. Lesson 10. To live with virtue is to live with purpose in the vast stage of life, where time moves relentlessly and circumstances constantly change. We often ask ourselves, what is the meaning of all this? What gives real direction and purpose to our existence? The Stoics offer a clear and profound answer. To live with virtue is to live with purpose. For the Stoics, virtue was not a rigid set of moral rules or a list of external behaviors. Virtue is the most authentic expression of a human being in harmony with himself and with the universe. It is the living manifestation of our best nature, to act with wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance, not because someone commands it, but because these qualities are the path to a fulfilled life. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts and on living in accordance with virtue." These words remind us that purpose is not abstract or distant. It is built in every moment, in every decision, in every virtuous act. When we live with virtue, every action carries meaning. We no longer search outside ourselves for a sense of direction, because meaning lives in how we act, how we choose, and how we respond. It lies in honesty, in fairness toward others, in the courage to face hardship, and in the temperance to master our impulses. To live with purpose means to live awake, aware, present, and intentional. It means not letting circumstances drag us aimlessly, but being the ones who steer our own course. Living with purpose is like having an inner compass, even amid confusion and storms. That compass is virtue. Epictetus once said, "Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for them to happen as they do, and your life will flow serenely." This acceptance of the present, united with the constant practice of virtue, leads to a life of peace and meaning. Purpose is not about controlling the world, it is about mastering our mind and our character. When we live with virtue, we stop being victims of circumstance and become architects of our destiny, not because we control everything, but because we choose how to respond to everything. Life will test us with joy, sorrow, and unexpected turns, but virtue gives us the strength to face them with dignity. To live with purpose is also to live in coherence, to align what we think, feel, and do. This inner harmony dissolves confusion and anxiety and brings us peace, because we are no longer divided or lost. We know who we are, and we know where we are going. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, the universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make it. Purpose is not something to be found outside, it is something we build within. Every small act of virtue, every time we choose justice over injustice, wisdom over ignorance, temperance over impulse, we move closer to a meaningful life. So when you feel lost, return to virtue. Return to the timeless principles the Stoics taught, to live with reason, with courage, with justice, and with self-control. Tonight, as you prepare for rest, let this reflection settle in your heart. To live with virtue is to live with purpose. Purpose is not a faraway destination, it is every step taken with intention and integrity. Breathe deeply, release doubt and distraction, and let your soul connect with that quiet strength that knows what is good and true. Repeat softly within yourself, to live with virtue is to live with purpose. May these words accompany you as you sleep and awaken. Because when you live with virtue, you are not merely living, you are living fully. Lesson 11. Reality doesn't need to be perfect to give you peace. In our search for tranquility, we often fall into a subtle but powerful trap, the belief that peace will come only when everything is perfect. We expect life to align perfectly, people to act as we wish, and the world to move according to our plans. But this expectation leads only to suffering, for perfection is an illusion. The Stoics have long taught a deeper truth: reality, with all its flaws, changes, and challenges, is enough to give us peace. We do not need it to be perfect. We only need to learn to see and accept what already is. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." Acceptance is not resignation. It is the serene gaze that embraces reality as it is, without adding unnecessary suffering through resistance. When we demand perfection from life, we fight a battle we can never win, for life is full of surprises, mistakes, and constant change. It is this struggle against imperfection that creates anxiety and restlessness. The Stoics invite us to shift our focus, to stop fighting imperfection and instead find peace within it. Peace is not the absence of problems, it is the ability to live in harmony with them. Think of a river flowing downstream. It doesn't expect the path to be free of stones or the water to always be clear. It accepts every curve and obstacle and continues its journey calmly. So can we. Epictetus said, "It's not things that disturb us, but our opinions about them." Often our suffering does not come from what happens, but from our resistance to it. When we let go of the need for perfection, we open the door to tranquility. Tonight, as you prepare to rest, practice acceptance. You don't need everything to be right to feel peace. You only need to stop resisting what already is. Breathe deeply, feel reality as it truly is. Imperfect, changing, alive. There may be hardship, there may be uncertainty, but within you, there is always a quiet space untouched by chaos. That space is your true peace. It doesn't depend on what's outside, but on your ability to love the imperfect whole of life. Repeat softly within yourself, "Reality doesn't need to be perfect to give me peace." Let this truth settle in your heart and guide your rest. Because peace isn't found in perfection, it is found in acceptance. Lesson 12. The fortress within. Building unshakable character. Imagine a fortress standing atop a mountain, unyielding against the fiercest storms, untouched by the passing of time. That is the nature of a well-cultivated character. Resilient, intentional, and steady. No matter what happens outside, that inner refuge remains firm, offering calm and safety. The Stoics understood that real power does not come from controlling what's external, but from cultivating a soul so strong it cannot be broken by circumstance. Marcus Aurelius once wrote in his Meditations, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts and the strength of your character." Character, then, is not an abstract ideal. It is the living expression of how you choose to respond to life each day, how you act in difficulty, and how you keep your integrity when tested. A strong character does not mean being rigid or cold. It means having deep roots, steady, yet flexible. It means knowing your values and acting in harmony with them, no matter the pressure or the temptation to betray them. This firmness of soul is built through small daily choices. Each time you choose patience over irritation, justice over selfishness, honesty over convenience, you strengthen your inner fortress. Epictetus taught, "No evil can befall a good person, for their character cannot be harmed." True security, then, does not come from avoiding external harm, but from developing an inner strength that nothing can destroy. Character protects you not only in moments of hardship, but also against distraction, temptation, and comfort that weakens the will. It helps you stay centered when everything around you falls apart. So tonight, as you prepare for rest, reflect on your own character. How strong is your inner refuge? What decisions today have strengthened your soul? Which principles guide you when the storm arrives? Remember, it's not about perfection, but consistency. Each act of integrity, each moment you choose virtue, is another stone in the foundation of your inner citadel. Breathe deeply and feel that fortress rising within you, steady and serene. Repeat silently, "My firm character is the invincible refuge of my soul." Let these words surround you with calm and certainty as sleep carries you away. Even as the world changes and challenges come, your character remains a sanctuary, a place where your soul can rest and renew. Lesson 13. The present moment, where life truly exists. The present moment is the only place where life truly happens. Since the dawn of time, Humanity has sought to understand the nature of time itself, yet we so often get lost between echoes of the past and anxieties of the future, forgetting that now is the only space we can actually live, act, and feel. The Stoics remind us with both firmness and tenderness that life occurs only here and now. Everything else, what was or what might be, is merely a thought, a projection, an illusion beyond our control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not let the future disturb you, nor dwell too long on the past. Live in the present moment, for in it resides your life." It is a simple truth, and yet one our restless minds resist. We prefer to plan, to anticipate, to replay old memories, but that habit steals the raw, vivid experience of being alive. When we cling to the past, reliving mistakes, regrets or nostalgia, we trap ourselves in patterns that block growth. When we live in the future, projecting fears or desires, we rob ourselves of peace and joy. The Stoics teach us to anchor attention in the present, for it is the only realm of true power. Here in this very moment, you can choose your response, practice virtue, and find serenity. Epictetus reminded us, it is not that we have little time, but that we waste much of it, lost in illusion. Time is precious, and to live outside the present is to turn away from life itself. But how do we remain present in a world that moves so fast? Through practice, by returning again and again to the breath, to the heartbeat, to the sounds that surround you, by noticing the body, the air, the sensations of this very instant. These simple acts are doors, each one leading back to the now. When we live in the present, we realize life is not a straight line towards some distant goal, but an infinite collection of moments, each worthy of awareness and gratitude. This awareness frees us from anxiety and fear. It reminds us that peace is found not in control, but in full presence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The present is all you have. Do not waste it in fantasies." The present is also a place of reconciliation, where you can forgive, accept, and love again. Here you can quiet the racing mind and open yourself to deep calm. Living in the present, you discover that you need nothing more to be content. Fulfillment lives in this breath, this look, this sigh. So tonight, as you prepare to rest, bring your attention back, gently, kindly, to this moment. Feel the body soften, feel the mind settle. Let the present unfold in its quiet brilliance. Repeat softly, only the present moment holds life. Let these words cradle you as you drift into deep, peaceful sleep. Life is not in what was or what will be. It is here now, in every heartbeat, every breath, every conscious instant you choose to live. Lesson 14. True greatness lies in righteous action, not possession. Throughout our lives, society often feeds us a false idea of greatness. We are surrounded by images and voices that equate success with wealth, power, prestige, or fame. But the ancient Stoics remind us that true greatness is not found in what we own, but in how we act, in the integrity with which we live each moment. This is an invitation to look beyond appearances, to turn the gaze inward, toward the essence of being. Because a life rich in possessions, but empty of virtue, of honor, of moral strength, is a hollow one. In contrast, a life lived with rectitude, even if humble and simple, is a path toward authentic greatness. Marcus Aurelius, a man who possessed all the power and wealth of an empire, once wrote, "True nobility consists in being superior to your former self, not in having more than others." These words remind us that greatness is an inner conquest, a continuous effort to grow and to act according to our highest values, not a matter of status or possessions. Righteousness is not an abstract ideal or a rigid rule book. It is the way we meet the world, with honesty in our words, justice in our choices, courage in adversity, and compassion toward others. It is acting with integrity even when no one is watching. Epictetus taught, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." True wealth then lies in simplicity and moderation. Righteousness cannot be bought or inherited. It is cultivated, decision by decision, day by day. And this form of greatness, born of virtue, reveals itself most clearly when life tests us. To act with integrity is not always easy and often not comfortable. It requires strength to resist pressure, to stand firm against injustice, and to choose the harder, nobler path. In a world that often celebrates surface success, the Stoics call us to a higher standard, that of moral excellence and authenticity. They remind us that true glory is invisible to the eyes of others, but unmistakable to the soul that lives it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The glory of life lies not in what you do, but in how you do it." When integrity is genuine, it frees you from the fear of judgment and brings a peace that no wealth can purchase, the peace of living in harmony with your best self. So tonight, as you prepare for rest, reflect in what areas of your life are you acting with integrity. Where can you move closer to that quiet greatness that flows not from possessions, but from the heart? Remember, each moment is a chance to choose righteousness, to act with honesty, justice, and courage. Breathe deeply and let these words fill you with serenity and purpose. Repeat softly, "My greatness lives in righteous action, not in what I own." Let this truth accompany you into a peaceful, restorative sleep. For when you live with rectitude, every step you take is a step toward a greatness no fortune can ever buy. Lesson 15. Peace comes when you stop resisting fate. There comes a quiet, sacred moment when the soul finally stops resisting. And for the first time in a long while, it breathes. It is the instant when we cease fighting against what already is, against what has happened, against what life, without asking our permission, has placed in our path. That moment of serene surrender is not weakness, it is not resignation, it is wisdom in its purest form. The Stoics called this state amor fati, the love of fate, to love what happens, not merely to endure it or tolerate it, but to embrace it completely, even when it arrives cloaked in pain, loss, or uncertainty. Why should we love what we did not choose? Why open our arms to what we once tried to avoid? Because resisting fate does not change what has already occurred. It only drains our strength and fills the heart with restlessness. We swim against the river of life, exhausting ourselves, wishing the water would flow another way. But the river never stops, life continues. And the more we resist, the more we suffer, more anxiety, more frustration, more distance from peace. If instead of resisting, we surrender with dignity, if we choose to live what life gives us with presence, something profound happens. The noise of the mind quiets, the tension in the body softens, and the soul finds a place to rest. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the world and disciple of inner silence, wrote, "Accept whatever comes to you, woven in the pattern of your destiny, for what could more aptly fit your needs?" These are not the words of a detached man, but of one who understood, we are not spectators or victims of life, but integral parts of it. Everything that happens does not come from chaos, but from a deeper order, even when we cannot yet see it. And if we are part of that order, then every event, however painful, has its place, its purpose, its reason to be. We may not always understand it. Sometimes it takes years to see the meaning. Sometimes we never will. But calm does not come from understanding everything. It comes from releasing the demand that life conform to our desires. Peace is born from trust, trust that there is a greater flow, a silent intelligence guiding the threads of time, and that our task is not to control it, but to live it fully. Epictetus, born a slave and later master of inner freedom, said, "Do your part with what is in your power, and accept serenely what is not." The key is there: act where you can, and let go where you cannot. There are things we simply cannot command: death, time, the choices of others, illness, loss, chance. To fight them is to break ourselves. To accept them is to bend. Like the tree that yields to the wind, and therefore does not snap. Acceptance does not mean the absence of pain. You will still cry for loss, still feel the sting of betrayal, still tremble before uncertainty. To feel is human, but feeling is not the same as resisting. You can grieve with an open heart and still accept with a peaceful soul. So tonight, as the world quiets and you prepare for rest, close your eyes and think of what you still resist, the thing you wish had been different. See it clearly, name it with tenderness, and then ask yourself, what would happen if I stopped fighting this? Perhaps in that moment, you will find a new kind of peace, the peace that comes not from control, but from acceptance. Lesson 16. To educate the mind is the noblest art of all. We live in a world that values appearance, speed, and performance, the immediate. What shines on the outside is rewarded. What accumulates is admired. What dazzles is celebrated. And in that rush, we have forgotten something essential. The greatest act of greatness is not conquering the external world, but learning to educate the mind. Educating the mind doesn't mean filling it with facts or repeating clever quotes. It means shaping it with intention, with love, with virtue. It is sculpting, thought by thought, choice by choice, an inner temple where serenity, clarity, compassion, and truth can live. For the Stoics, this was one of the pillars of philosophy, to cultivate the mind as a gardener tends his garden, not with haste, not with force, but with patience, observation, and daily practice. Epictetus said, "It's not the load that breaks you down, but the way your mind carries it." He was reminding us that everything in life depends on the state of our mind, that what we think about events matters more than the events themselves. If our mind is untrained, everything hurts us, but if it is educated, everything can strengthen us. To educate the mind is an art because it requires sensitivity. It's not about molding it like a machine, but understanding its rhythms, impulses, wounds, and beliefs, observing it without judgment, and guiding it gently toward virtue. An uneducated mind becomes fertile ground for fear, envy, judgment, and ego. It reacts instead of responds. It believes every passing thought. It clings to what it cannot control. It suffers from anticipation and punishes itself for the past. A trained mind, in contrast, is like a still lake. Emotions arrive, but do not disturb it completely. Problems appear, but do not shatter it. Harsh words may reach it, but they do not penetrate its depths, because there is a clear center from which it sees. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. What you think, repeat, and believe, that is what you become. To educate the mind, then, is not a luxury, it is a vital necessity. Imagine living with a truly calm mind, one that does not overflow with the noise of others, that doesn't depend on the external to find peace, that chooses thoughts as one carefully chooses the seeds to plant. Such a mind is freedom. No one is born with it. We all begin with inherited fears, automatic thoughts, and old conditioning. But that is not a sentence, it is a beginning. The mind can be retrained. It can learn to think more clearly, more justly, more compassionately, more strongly. The process is not easy. It requires time, discipline, patience, and the courage to fall and rise again. But it is noble, because when you educate your mind, you transform not only your life, but the lives of those around you. Your words change, your energy changes, your way of facing problems changes, and you leave a trail of peace wherever you go. Tonight before sleep, reflect. What thoughts arose most strongly today? Which ones helped you find calm? Which ones fed your restlessness? Don't judge yourself, just observe. Each day is a new opportunity to polish your mind like a precious stone. Repeat within, educating my mind is my noblest art. Let that phrase sink deep within you, like a seed that will bloom tomorrow into clarity and strength. In a world of noise, the one who educates the mind creates silence. In a world of haste, the one who educates the mind learns to pause. In a world obsessed with domination, the one who educates the mind discovers the highest mastery, self-mastery. There is no art more sublime, no conquest more sacred, no purpose more worthy. To educate the mind will always be humanity's noblest act. Lesson 17. A whole soul is worth more than any achievement. We live in an age where a person's worth is often measured by what they have achieved: success, fame, wealth, status, results. Everywhere you look, there are prizes for visible triumphs, for measurable results, for appearances that impress. But deep within you, there is a quieter voice that knows a deeper truth. Your whole soul is worth infinitely more than any external achievement. The Stoics always knew this. They understood that no visible success, no matter how great, can make up for a broken conscience. No medal, no applause, no recognition has the power to heal a soul that has betrayed itself. Because when you lose your integrity, you lose the only thing that was ever truly yours. Marcus Aurelius, emperor, commander-ruler of the known world, wrote in his private reflections, "The worth of a man is measured by the quality of his soul, not by the size of his conquests." If anyone could have been blinded by outer success, it was him. Yet he understood, as the wise do, that true greatness is not out there. It lives in the soul that stays faithful to itself, that acts justly, resists corruption, and stands firm in what is right, even when unseen. An integral soul is not a perfect one. It's a soul that, even in its mistakes, refuses hypocrisy or self-deception. It knows how to fall and how to return to center. It doesn't need external approval to know it is doing what's right. Epictetus said, "It is better to fail while being true to yourself than to succeed by betraying your nature." This is liberating, because it reminds us that achievements don't define us. They are not the measure of our worth. What you are in your depths is far more than what you have or have done. And yet we often live as if it were the opposite. We chase goals with desperation, compare ourselves, pressure ourselves, and in the process sacrifice our peace, our honesty, our humanity. How many times have you felt the temptation to act against your values just to fit in, to advance, to not fall behind? We've all been there, but the Stoics offer another way. They invite you to remember that integrity is not an obstacle to success. It is the only success that can never be lost. External things can come and go. Fame fades, money is spent, recognition changes, but what you are within, your dignity, your honesty, your goodness, that belongs only to you. Seneca once said, "I would rather have a clear conscience than a full fortune." This is not a pretty phrase. It is a way of living, a decision, a priority. Tonight, as you rest, ask yourself, how close am I to my own integrity? Where have I made compromises that weigh on me? What goals have I pursued at the cost of myself? And what would happen if, instead of measuring your worth by what you achieve, you measured it by who you are when no one is watching? An integral life may seem slower, less dazzling from the outside, but its peace is unshakable. Its sleep is deep. Its heart is light. You don't need to have everything to be at peace with yourself. You just need not to betray who you are. Breathe deeply, close your eyes, and repeat silently, "My whole soul is my greatest treasure." Let that truth settle within you, like a seed that will bloom tomorrow into wiser choices. The world will continue its course. Goals will come or fade. Achievements will shift or disappear. But what remains, what lives in your conscience when everything external fades, is what you truly are. And if what you are is a whole, serene, noble soul, then you have already won. Lesson 18. The freedom of acceptance. Sometimes life brings illness, loss, unexpected failure, or a silence that hurts. A sudden turn, and there we are, suspended in that uncomfortable space where nothing feels the way we want it to. And then the struggle begins. We fight against what has already happened. We fight against what we cannot control. We resist change. We try to force life to fit our expectations, and in that invisible, exhausting effort, we lose our breath, because resisting what cannot be changed solves nothing. It only tightens your chest, closing you inside frustration, anxiety, and unnecessary pain. The Stoics, masters of serenity, understood something essential. Acceptance is not defeat. It is wisdom, it is freedom, it is space to breathe. Epictetus said it clearly, "Of things some are within our control, and others are not. Wisdom begins when we learn to tell the difference. Simple, maybe, but in practice, it's a lesson we must remember again and again, because the mind wants control. It craves explanations, guarantees, certainty. Yet life doesn't work that way. Life is movement, surprise, constant change. And the more we try to control it all, the further we drift from peace. To accept what you cannot change is not to surrender to life. It's not passive resignation. It's emotional intelligence. It's realizing that your inner struggle doesn't change the past, doesn't stop the inevitable, doesn't alter someone else's will. It only drains you. And when you accept, when you take a deep breath and release what's beyond your power, something shifts inside you. Your body softens, your mind clears, and you finally feel the relief of no longer fighting reality. Marcus Aurelius, amid wars, illness, and losses that shaped an empire, wrote, "If it hurts on the outside, let it be. If it hurts on the inside, change it, but never torment yourself over what you cannot touch." He understood that there is deep freedom in recognizing the limits of our power. We weren't born to control the world. We were born to live it, to grow within it, to find meaning even when things don't go as planned. Reflect for a moment. How many times have you been trapped in thoughts like, "This shouldn't have happened. I can't accept this. Why me?" Those are not thoughts. They are forms of resistance, and each time you repeat them, you deny yourself the chance to be at peace with the present moment. But what if, instead of fighting, you chose to let go? It doesn't mean you stop feeling. It doesn't mean you numb your heart. It means you recognize that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, born from resistance. When you stop saying, "This shouldn't be this way," and start saying, "This is how it is, and I can live with it," you reclaim your breath, your center. Acceptance creates space, space to breathe, space to see, space to respond calmly instead of reacting in despair. Imagine a river. If you swim against the current all the time, you'll exhaust yourself. But if you learn to float, to observe, to move with the water, you'll keep going with much less struggle. That's how life works. Acceptance doesn't mean drifting aimlessly. It means moving consciously through what you cannot change. You lost something valuable. Accept it. Someone failed you. Accept it. A loved one left. Accept it. You failed. Accept it. What you hoped for didn't happen. Accept it. Not as someone who gives up, but as someone who finally understands that peace begins the moment you stop demanding life to be different. Tonight, while the world quiets and only your thoughts remain, ask yourself, what am I still resisting that has already happened? What part of reality am I struggling to accept? What would change inside me if I stopped fighting and simply breathed with what is? You don't need to fix everything tonight. You don't need to change it all. Just loosen the fist that clings to what's already gone, and in that release you'll find your freedom. Whisper gently, like you're soothing your own soul. Accepting what I cannot change gives me room to breathe. Feel that phrase become a key that opens a door inside you, not a door to perfection, but to peace, to freedom, to the calm that appears when you finally allow life to be as it is, without conditions. What you cannot change is teaching you, it's refining you, it's strengthening you from within. Breathe deeply, drop your shoulders, release that tension you've carried for so long, and whisper once more, slowly, I accept. Not because I understand, not because I like it, but because it is what is, and I choose to live it with dignity. There, right there, begins transformation. There begins freedom. Lesson 19. Love what happens, the highest form of freedom. There's a great difference between accepting what happens and loving what happens. Acceptance often carries resignation, like someone lowering their arms because there's no other choice, saying, "Fine, this is what it is. I can't change it, I'll have to endure it." But to love what happens, that's something else entirely. That is transformation. That is rising above good and bad, justice and injustice, comfort and discomfort. That is freedom. The Stoics had a word for it, amor fati, the love of fate, not merely tolerating life's events, but embracing them as necessary, as correct, as part of a larger order, as if even what hurts the most has a sacred place within the dance of the universe. And though it seems hard to grasp, once you begin to live from this vision, everything changes, because while you reject what happens, you're trapped. While you fight reality, you're chained. While you wish things were different, peace cannot find you. But when you release resistance, when you take one more step and choose to say, "This is what is and I choose to love it, because it's here for a reason," then you are free. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor who lost children, who faced betrayal, wars, plague, and unbearable decisions, wrote, "Love whatever happens to you, for it has been woven for you, guided by the intelligence of the universe." He didn't write this from privilege, but from pain, from chaos faced with calm, from a soul that understood that life does not happen against you, but for you. Of course, this doesn't mean that everything that happens is pleasant. It doesn't mean you must enjoy suffering or deny sadness. It means that you can look at every event, even the hardest ones, and ask, what is this awakening in me? What part of me needs to grow from this? Which virtue is being called forth? Because some pains come to break illusion, some failures come to deflate the ego, some losses reveal attachment, some challenges forge patience, some injustices strengthen your sense of justice, and every obstacle builds your inner strength. Even if you can't see the meaning right away, over time, if you're willing to look, you'll discover that nothing was in vain. Epictetus said it without hesitation: "Do not wish that things happen as you want them to. Wish that they happen as they do, and you will be at peace." That is amor fati, loving your fate not because you chose it, not because you desired it, but because you trust that life, in its mysterious wisdom, knows more than you. And when you do that, when you choose to love even what you don't yet understand, a new space opens inside you, a space where you no longer need to control, where you no longer fear change, where you can stay calm even in the middle of chaos, because you know that whatever arrives comes for a reason, and whatever leaves also leaves for a reason. To live from amor fati is not to surrender, it is to trust. It is to see life not as an enemy, throwing challenges to make you fall, but as a teacher offering exactly what you need to awaken, and from that vision, everything becomes useful. Lesson 20. Love what happens. The good, to be enjoyed. The difficult, to help you grow. The unexpected, to teach you flexibility. The painful, to remind you of impermanence. The uncomfortable, to let you practice virtue. To love what happens is, at its core, to love the totality of existence, to love the flow of life, without trying to interrupt it, to love the mountain and the valley, the sun and the shadow, the beginning and the end. And when you do that, when you align yourself with the deep rhythm of existence, your heart finally rests. You no longer need everything to go right to be at peace, because you are at peace with what is. Tonight, as you prepare to sleep, let go of the weight of your expectations. Release that tension born from wanting everything to be different. Take a deep breath and repeat silently, "I don't need to understand everything right now. I just need to be present with what is. What life has given me today is exactly what I needed, and I choose to trust. I choose to love." Feel how that attitude doesn't take away your power. It gives it back to you, because you are no longer a leaf in the wind. You are the steady tree, the one that bends, that adapts, that endures, but never breaks. The great sages were not those who controlled the world, but those who learned to live in harmony with what life gave them. They turned every experience into wisdom. They did not grow bitter when things didn't go as planned. They didn't stay trapped in complaint. They chose to love what life brought their way. And you can do the same. You don't have to wait for perfection. You don't need everything to fit perfectly, to feel gratitude. You can begin now, with this moment, with this breath, with the present that holds you, because loving what happens doesn't change the facts, but it transforms your relationship with them, and that is true freedom. Lesson 21. Before sleep, release the weight of the unnecessary. Let go of the day so your soul can breathe. Before you sleep, release the weight of the unnecessary. Every day we carry a load of ideas, emotions, undone tasks, half-finished conversations, unmet expectations, and unfulfilled desires, stones we strap into an invisible backpack. At night, the body may be tired, but the mind keeps racing, eyes closed but thoughts still awake, replaying what was said, what wasn't said, what you will do tomorrow, what you should have done today. Remember this lesson before you sleep. Let go, unload what you do not need to carry. The Stoics knew the mind needs cleansing, like the body, like a house. It's not about emptying it completely, but about not accumulating what you don't need to take with you. Let each day end lightly, within a space, with a sense of true rest that goes beyond physical sleep. Epictetus said, "It is not the load that exhausts you, but how you carry it." Often we carry with resistance, attachment, the obsession to control, to understand, to solve everything now. But the night is not for that. Night is for surrendering gracefully to silence, for trusting, for letting what cannot be solved today rest so your soul can regenerate. Imagine your mind as a room, and each thought as an object. Some are useful, many just clutter, unnecessary judgments, borrowed worries, finished stories, fears that haven't happened yet. If you decide tonight to tidy that room, you don't need grand rituals. Simply stop, breathe, notice, and let go. Release judgment. You don't have to re-evaluate every action of the day. Don't punish yourself for mistakes. What's done is done. If there's something to improve, you will do it tomorrow. For now, give yourself tenderness. Drop the rush. Life isn't measured by how many tasks you checked off, but by how present you were in each moment. If you didn't finish everything today, it's okay. You're human. Rest is part of the path. Don't try to solve tomorrow from your pillow. Don't plan every minute. Let the night do its work. Let life's mystery handle what you cannot manage. Marcus Aurelius, who carried the weight of an empire, wrote, "When you go to sleep, remind yourself that your mind deserves rest as much as your body, that the soul needs silence to regenerate." That wisdom still applies. Today we live overstimulated. Calm doesn't come from the world, it is chosen and practiced. Tonight choose to let go. Keep only the essential, your breath, your presence, your peace. Leave everything else aside, like clothes on a chair. Turn off the lights, close the windows, close your eyes, breathe deeply and repeat silently. I do not need to carry all of this into my sleep. I can let go of the unnecessary. I did my best today, and that is enough. You don't have to solve your life now. You don't have to understand it all. Just rest, trust, and offer yourself the sacred act of letting the day go so your soul has room. Resting is not merely sleeping. It is surrendering to life without resistance. It is remembering that even in doing nothing you are supported by your body, by your breath, by the deep intelligence of existence. If something inside resists letting go, that's fine. Don't force it. Observe it gently, patiently, and say from the soul, "I do not need you to leave. I just need to rest." Little by little, what you don't need will fade, like smoke or dust, and in its place something lighter will appear. A clearer mind, a calm body, an open heart, a peaceful soul. That is what happens when you decide to release the weight before sleep. You not only rest, you transform. Lesson 22. You don't need to be perfect. Be honest with yourself. Aim for honesty, not impossible perfection. There's a silent pressure many of us carry day after day, the need to be perfect. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it tightens the chest, disguised as responsibility, ambition, or the desire to improve. We build an ideal version of ourselves that never errs, that always knows what to do, that always appears polished. Slowly we stop being at peace with who we are and begin fighting to become who we think we should be. But that fight has no end. Perfection as we imagine it doesn't exist. You will never live a day without mistakes, doubts, or uncomfortable emotions. Chasing that impossible standard only brings exhaustion, frustration, and self-deception. The Stoics did not preach perfection. They taught virtue, and virtue, for them, was a daily practice, a steady effort to live with coherence, clarity, and integrity. They did not demand infallibility. They demanded honesty. Epictetus put it clearly: practice what is right and be honest about your faults. Strive to improve, but do not hide from what you are. Honesty, not perfection. That is the Stoic way. When you choose honest effort over chasing an unattainable ideal, you free yourself from constant judgment and open the door to authentic, steady progress. So tonight, before sleep, give yourself permission to be human. Be honest with what you did well and with what you can improve, without harshness, without shame. Small, consistent choices build character far more than grand gestures of perfection. Repeat softly: I do not need to be perfect. I only need to be honest with myself. Let that truth settle in you like a gentle compass. Each honest step, no matter how small, brings you closer to clarity, peace, and genuine growth. Lesson 23. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be honest with yourself. If you wish to progress, be willing to appear foolish to others. Epictetus: don't try to please everyone. Try to be true to yourself. That's the key. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be honest about what you feel, what you think, what you know you must change, and what you're already doing well. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of the greatest empire of his time, wrote to himself in his meditations: do what must be done without seeking applause. Correct your faults, but never hate yourself for them. Each day draw closer to your inner nature. He never demanded invulnerability. He asked himself only for honesty, presence, and commitment to improvement, without internal violence. That is one of the most profoundly human lessons of Stoicism. You are on the path, not at the finish line, and that is enough. Maybe today you made mistakes. Maybe you spoke harshly. Maybe you failed yourself in some way. Maybe you struggled to control an emotion, or you let fear or anger lead you. That doesn't make you unworthy, it makes you human. What defines your path is not the failure itself, but what you decide to do with it. Do you punish yourself, or do you understand yourself? Do you hide, or do you learn? Do you collapse, or do you rebuild? Seneca said, as long as you breathe, you can begin again. The wise are not those who never fall, but those who fall less and rise better. Tonight, pause for a moment. Look within. Ask yourself gently, where in my life am I demanding perfection? What part of me am I trying to hide, to polish, to repress out of fear of not being enough? And then listen, not to judge, not to correct yourself immediately, just to understand. Maybe you've believed for a long time that unless you do everything right, you don't deserve love, rest, respect, or forgiveness. But that is a lie of the ego, a trap repeated through generations. The truth is this: you deserve all of it, just as you are now. Not in some ideal future version of yourself. Not when you achieve every goal. Not when you fix every flaw. But now, with your light and your shadow, your wounds and your strengths, your doubts and your achievements. Because honesty with yourself is the first step toward real transformation. You cannot grow if you refuse to see yourself. You cannot heal if you do not recognize where you are wounded. You cannot move forward if you don't accept where you stand. And the beauty of it all is that when you allow yourself to be truly human, life becomes lighter. You no longer need to wear masks. You no longer need to pretend that everything is under control. You no longer need to chase an impossible version of yourself. You only need to be present, awake, aware, faithful to your inner truth. It's not easy. Sometimes being honest with yourself means facing uncomfortable things, subtle addictions, self-deception, harmful attachments, fears you'd rather not see. But within that act of courage, a quiet strength is born, one that doesn't come from pride, but from humility. Because the one who knows himself becomes free. The one who accepts himself grows strong. The one who honors himself with truth no longer needs to appear perfect. Tonight before sleep, breathe deeply. Place a hand over your chest and repeat calmly, I don't need to be perfect. I just need to be honest. I am learning, I am growing, I am doing my best, and that is enough. Let those words sink in like medicine. Let them soften the parts of you that have been tense for years, trying to prove, to fit, to impress. You don't need that. What you need is peace with yourself. You need reconciliation with your humanity. You need to rest without masks. And in that rest, slowly a new version of you will bloom, more authentic, more serene, more real. Because perfection is an illusion, but honesty is freedom. Lesson 24. You are exactly where you need to be. There's a quiet restlessness that lives in many hearts, a feeling of always being late to something, as if life should already look different than it does now, as if you should have achieved more, been somewhere else, done something greater. That anxiety, that subtle dissatisfaction, is not your fault. It's part of the noise of the modern world, a world that constantly tells you you're not enough yet, that you must run, reach, perfect, prove. A world that pushes you forward, but never teaches you how to inhabit the present. And yet, the Stoics left us a timeless truth. You are where you need to be. This moment is enough. It's not an empty phrase. It's not an excuse for passivity or mediocrity. It's a deep truth that you can only understand once you release the desire for the present to be something other than what it is. When you stop comparing your life with others or with your own idealized expectations, when you simply breathe and allow yourself to be here, you discover peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The present is all you have. The past is no longer yours. The future has not yet come. Only this moment is real." And if you observe it carefully, you'll see nothing is missing. You're alive, you're breathing, you're listening, you're learning, and that is enough. What usually disturbs us is not reality itself, but the story we tell about it. Thoughts like "this shouldn't be happening," or "I should be further ahead." But thought is not the moment. The mind always wants to run, to the past or to what might come next. But the soul can only live here. The present is like a silent home, always waiting for your return. Every time you come back to it, something aligns within you. Your breathing slows, your gaze softens, your heart rests. The Stoics knew that suffering is born not just from pain, but from resisting the present. We want change now. We want to skip the uncomfortable parts. But life has its own rhythm, and you are exactly at the point of the path you need to be, to learn what you must learn. You are not late. You are not lost. You are not wrong for feeling what you feel. You are at the perfect point of your evolution. Even if this moment hurts or confuses you, it is still enough. If you look closely, you'll see even in chaos, there's a seed of order. Even in stillness, transformation is quietly happening. Even in emptiness, there's space for something new. What if this very moment is the one you need to awaken a new version of yourself? What if the detour was part of the path? What if you are not lost, but gently being guided in ways you cannot yet understand? Sometimes growth is silent, invisible, internal. It doesn't always show on the outside, but it's there in that small sigh of peace. When you stop fighting and simply whisper to yourself, "I am here," and that is enough. This isn't just a bedtime reassurance. It's a reminder that your worth isn't found in what you do or how fast you move. Your worth is in your being, in your presence, in your willingness to live truthfully, and that can never be taken from you. Lesson 25. What you let go of sets you free. There's something deeply human about the act of holding on. We hold on to relationships, to images of ourselves, to expectations, to memories, to wounds that never fully close. We hold on to ideas that no longer serve us, filling our hands and hearts with things we no longer need. We carry guilt, resentment, unfulfilled desires, and fears we refuse to face. But there comes a moment when you simply can't hold on anymore. A moment, maybe like this one, when you realize that carrying what is no longer yours is a silent form of slavery. Then a soft truth arises, like a whisper. What you let go of sets you free. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. They knew suffering doesn't come from things themselves, but from our attachment to them. Pain comes and goes, but the chain that holds it is one we forge ourselves. Epictetus said, "Only the person who lives according to reason and does not cling to what is beyond his control is truly free." That includes many things: people who can no longer walk beside you, chapters that have already served their purpose, situations you can no longer change, versions of yourself that no longer fit, even dreams that were born from fear rather than truth. Letting go is not failure. Letting go is not surrender. Letting go is the courage to face what no longer resonates with your soul, and to release it with gratitude, love, and peace. Not every bond is eternal. Not every season must continue. Not everything that begins needs to last forever. Some things arrive to teach you something, and when that lesson is rooted, the wise thing is to say goodbye. But letting go hurts. It hurts because the mind clings. It hurts because we mistake permanence for security. It hurts because the ego fears losing control. Yet each time you release what no longer belongs, you feel both emptiness and expansion, like opening a window and letting in fresh air, like clearing a corner of your soul that had gathered emotional dust. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If something external causes you pain, it is not that thing itself that disturbs you, but your judgment about it, and you can revoke that judgment at any moment." True freedom is not found in what you possess, but in what you can let go of. Tonight, in this quiet moment, ask yourself gently, what am I still holding that I no longer need? What thoughts, habits, memories, or relationships are binding me instead of lifting me? What story am I still reliving, simply because I don't yet know who I am without it? Don't rush to answer. Just listen, just observe. Maybe you won't let it all go tonight. Maybe you can't yet. But recognizing what needs release is already the first step. Sometimes what you must release isn't a thing. It's an idea about who you should be, how your life should look, what you should have achieved by now, or what others expected of you. And when you let it go, you realize something that's always been true. You are not your achievements. You are not your mistakes. You are not your attachments. You are the space that remains when all of that dissolves. That space is freedom. Seneca wrote, "No loss should be mourned if it does not rob you of your character." Everything external can fade, break, or disappear, but your integrity, your inner peace, your will to live in harmony with virtue, that remains. That strengthens every time you release what is not yours to carry. Letting go doesn't mean forcing anything. Sometimes it simply means stopping the resistance, stopping the replay of the memory, stopping the search for answers where there are none. And when you do, you feel relief. You breathe deeper. You sleep lighter. You walk with less weight. That is the quiet liberation the Stoics cultivated. Not external victory, but the inner freedom born when the soul is cleansed of what's unnecessary. Tonight, try this small act of inner courage. Imagine standing before an invisible suitcase. Place inside it everything you no longer wish to carry: a resentment, a future worry, a painful expectation, a guilt that no longer teaches you anything, a false image of yourself that exhausts you. Then close the suitcase and let it go. You don't need to know what happens next. You just need to feel the relief of no longer carrying it. True rest begins when the soul is light, and lightness is born from detachment, surrender, and trust. The trust that what leaves makes room for what must arrive, and what stays does so because it serves a deeper purpose. What you let go of sets you free, and what sets you free transforms you. Tonight, release and sleep lighter. Remember, you are not late. You are not incomplete. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are blossoming. You are returning home to yourself. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and whisper, "I am here, and here is enough." Lesson 26. Everything that arrives to teach you something. Perhaps later on you'll look back and say, "Now I understand why that happened. Now I see what it came to teach me. Now I realize it was necessary." You don't need to understand everything today. You only need to be present with what is, to receive what arrives with serenity, and to trust that even if you can't see it now, you are learning something profound, something shaping your soul, something helping you grow into a new version of yourself. So breathe, let go of the questions for a moment, and softly repeat within yourself, "Whatever comes to teach me something, and I am willing to learn, even if I don't understand yet, even if it hurts, even if it's difficult. I am open to growth." Lesson 27. Serenity does not come from control, but from understanding. There is a silent search we all share, even if we don't always know how to name it, the search for serenity. That inner state where everything seems to be in its right place, even if the world outside continues spinning with its noise, its unpredictability, its constant change. At some point in life, we all long for that peace, a moment of calm that doesn't depend on perfection, on outcomes, or on everything going our way. But many search for serenity, in the wrong place, in control, in the constant effort to make sure nothing goes wrong, that everything fits, that people don't change, that time doesn't move too fast, that the body doesn't age, that life stays exactly the way we want it. And in that attempt to control, tension is born, frustration is born, anxiety is born. Serenity does not come from control, it comes from understanding. The Stoics knew this well. They knew that life is change, movement, transformation. They knew that trying to freeze it, as if it were a still photograph, only leads to suffering. They understood that the more you cling to control, the more vulnerable you become to disappointment. That's why their wisdom was never about dominating the world, but about understanding it. Understanding that others won't always act as you wish. Understanding that plans change, that the unexpected is part of the path, that even pain can be part of a greater order you may not yet see. Understanding that imperfection is not a flaw, it is the very nature of life itself. Epictetus said, "Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly." It's a simple teaching, yet a radical one, because it changes the focus. You stop demanding that the world conform to you, and instead you begin training your inner self to adapt to the world as it truly is. And what happens when you truly understand this? A relief appears, a gentle liberation. You stop fighting every wind. You stop wasting your energy on what you cannot control. Instead, you begin to observe, to listen, to understand. And from that understanding, serenity is born. A serene person is not one who controls everything, but one who understands they don't need control to be at peace. They have made peace with uncertainty. They've learned to trust, not in outcomes, but in their own ability to respond wisely to whatever comes. Tonight, as you rest, ask yourself, where are you searching for your peace? In perfection? In having everything go your way? In keeping people from changing? In holding the reins of every moment? If so, you're leaning on a fragile illusion, because none of that is guaranteed. But if instead you choose to find serenity in understanding, understanding yourself, understanding life, understanding others, then you're cultivating a peace that cannot be broken by the twists of fate. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his nightly meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He didn't write this as theory. He wrote it as an emperor, as a father, as a human being facing illness, betrayal, war, and painful choices. He wrote it because he lived it, because he discovered that his only true freedom was in the way he chose to understand the world. And you can do the same. Every time something disturbs you, pause, breathe. Instead of asking, "How can I avoid this?" ask, "What is this trying to show me? What can I learn from this? What part of me needs to grow through this?" Perhaps the situation won't change right away, but if you change your understanding of it, if you stop resisting and start observing, accepting, and trusting, then something transforms. Not outside you, but within you. That is where true serenity begins. Not in the absence of problems, but in the presence of understanding. Understanding that everything has its place, even what you dislike. Understanding that you cannot control the rain, but you can choose not to get wet inside. Understanding that you cannot stop the seasons from changing, but you can learn to dance with them. Understanding that life doesn't owe you perfection, only presence. This lesson is not about surrender, nor apathy, nor passivity. It's about stopping your demand for life to match your mental map and starting to see the real one, full of curves, surprises, and crossroads, one that invites you to adapt, to flow, to open, and to remember, Life is not something you dominate, it's something you understand, and the more you understand it, the more serenity you find. Tonight, as you close your eyes, try this gentle exercise of mindful observation. Think of a situation that troubles you. Instead of asking, "How can I change it?" ask, "What can I understand about it? What part of me is reacting to this? What is this moment trying to teach me? What expectation is breaking, and what new freedom might be born if I stop resisting?" Perhaps the answer won't come immediately. Maybe it will just be a sigh. But that sigh can be the beginning of serenity. You stop fighting and start seeing, because to understand is not to justify. To understand is to embrace reality as it is. And when you do that, you realize you don't need to change everything to be at peace. You only need to see with new eyes, and from there, from that wider vision, serenity comes naturally, like the sun appearing after the fog. Without effort, without control, it simply appears. Whisper softly before you sleep. Serenity does not come from control, but from understanding. Lesson 28. Gratitude turns what you have into enough, and I choose to understand, to observe, to accept, and to let go. Tomorrow life will continue its course, but you will be more prepared. Not because everything is under your control, but because your soul will know how to rest in understanding. And in that humble act, you stop resisting and begin to transform. Sometimes we spend a large part of our lives waiting for more success, more recognition, more time, more health, more love, more certainty. And without realizing it, that endless more becomes a silent burden, a constant tension that blinds us to what already is, what already exists, what already dwells in our lives, even if we've stopped noticing it. The Stoics, in their timeless wisdom, understood that this constant craving for more is one of the deepest sources of human suffering. Because when you place your peace in what hasn't arrived yet, you disconnect from the present. And when you disconnect from the present, life becomes a race with no finish line. There will always be something else to chase, something to make you feel incomplete. But gratitude is an invisible key. A door that once opened changes your perception. It doesn't change your circumstances. It changes the way you see them, and that alone is enough to transform your entire experience. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." And within that simple statement lies the seed of this lesson. When you cultivate gratitude, you're not giving up your dreams, nor abandoning growth. What you're really doing is learning to find fulfillment in what you already have, while moving toward what you desire. It's a delicate balance, but a powerful one. Imagine for a moment that everything you have right now disappeared tonight. Your bed, your breath, the people you love, your body, your ability to see, hear, feel. Imagine losing all of that, and then waking up tomorrow to find it returned. How would you look at it? How would you value it? That's gratitude, seeing the ordinary as miraculous, because it is. The simple act of breathing right now is already a gift. Nothing guarantees it, nothing owes it to you. It is simply here, now. And if you recognize it, if you honor it, something subtle happens. Need dissolves, and the heart finds rest. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal, night after night, phrases he repeated like mantras. In one of them, he said, "Do not complain about what fate has given you. Give thanks for what you still have." He, an emperor with access to everything others could desire, understood that peace did not come from possessions, or power, or admiration, but from inner recognition, from the art of seeing what is with new eyes, with humility and reverence. And you can do that too. Maybe today was hard. Maybe nothing went as planned. Maybe you felt lonely, frustrated, or incomplete. But if you look closely, you'll see that even in the midst of it all, there are things that remain: the ability to feel, to reflect, to rest somewhere safe, to be here right now, listening, growing, living. That's already so much. Gratitude isn't an obligation or a checklist of things to recite mechanically. It's a state of the soul, an openness, a way of saying to life, "I see you, I recognize you, and though not everything is perfect, I'm thankful for what is, because what you thank grows. What you thank heals you. What you thank anchors you. If you make gratitude a daily practice, even on your darkest days, you'll still find light, not because the pain vanishes, but because you're no longer at the mercy of emptiness. You'll have a refuge, an inner home, a well of serenity that doesn't depend on the weather outside. Tonight, before you sleep, pause. Turn your attention inward and find 3 things you can genuinely be grateful for today. They don't have to be big. Maybe someone's voice that made you smile, the taste of something you enjoyed, the breath that still moves through you, or simply the fact that you're here, listening, growing, alive. These small things aren't small, they're the foundation of a full life. The roots that hold you steady when everything else feels uncertain. And if you do this every night, counting not what's missing, but what remains, little by little, your mind will quiet, your soul will expand, and your heart will rest, because you've stopped running, you've stopped demanding more, and you've begun to whisper softly to life, "Thank you. This is enough, for now." The Stoics lived from that perspective, not because they were conformists, but because they understood that nothing external can give you true fulfillment if you haven't learned to value what's internal. And the inner world is cultivated through gratitude, recognition, and presence. Remember, you don't need to have everything to feel at peace. You only need to see what you already have, with new eyes. And in that simple act of seeing, something changes. Lesson 29. Conclusion. Self-compassion is the beginning of all healing. Healing begins the moment you become a safe space for yourself. When instead of asking, "Why did I fail?" you ask with honesty, "What do I need?" When instead of judging your sadness, you listen to it patiently. When instead of running from your pain, you sit beside it and ask, "What are you here to show me?" Tonight, as the world grows quiet, perhaps a part of you still feels restless. Maybe there's a memory, a guilt, an expectation that won't let go, a voice inside whispering, "You're not doing enough, you're not enough." And instead of fighting it, try something different. Listen, not to justify or to victimize yourself, but to understand the way you'd understand someone you love who's going through a hard time. Imagine for a moment that this inner critical voice isn't your enemy. It's a part of you that learned to speak that way out of fear. Fear of not being loved, fear of not being enough, fear of rejection, fear of failure. And now, you can teach it something new. You can show it that it no longer needs to shout or punish, that you are here, willing to be present with yourself, without conditions. That alone is healing. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, often wrote about forgiveness, not through grand speeches, but through quiet reminders. He knew that excessive rigidity breaks us, that no one can stand strong for long without an inner space to rest. Compassion is that space. Compassion is giving yourself permission to breathe without guilt. It's recognizing that you've done the best you could, with what you had, with what you knew, with what you could hold at that moment. And if you could have done more, that's okay. Now you know. Now you can choose differently, without hurting yourself, without shame, without dragging your past behind you. No flower grows by being yelled at, and neither do you. You grow through care, presence, affection, and patience, and you can offer that to yourself tonight. You don't need to fix everything right now. You don't need to be perfect. You only need to be with yourself, to recognize your fatigue, to honor your wounds, to embrace your flaws as part of your process, and to remember that healing is not a destination, it's an attitude. An attitude that begins the moment you decide to treat yourself with the respect you deserve, with the tenderness you would give to someone you love deeply. Because in the end, no one will walk beside you longer than you. No one will be with you through every thought, every doubt, every fall, but you. So why not become your own first refuge? Why not speak to yourself with more care? Why not look at yourself through the eyes of understanding instead of punishment? There is no healing without compassion. There is no compassion without presence. And there is no presence without pause. Tonight, make that pause. Close your eyes, let your body rest. Allow yourself to release and softly repeat, I am here for me. I forgive myself for not knowing before what I'm beginning to understand now. I walk with myself through this process without hurry, without punishment, with respect. And from this place, I begin to heal. Compassion doesn't weaken you. It makes you stronger, more authentic, freer, because it stops mattering how many times you fall and starts mattering how you choose to treat yourself along the way. And if you treat yourself with love, patience, and truth, then you are growing, you are returning to yourself, you are coming home, and within that inner home, you can finally rest. If this message has inspired you to take action, to begin your journey of self-transformation, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Each video is a new step toward your growth, a new reflection to strengthen your mind and soul. In the next episode, we'll go even deeper, exploring practical tools and powerful Stoic insights to help you continue evolving on your path. Don't miss it. Subscribe now and activate the bell so you won't miss any step on your journey toward greatness. We'll meet again in the next lesson.